Hello, welcome back to my world of stuff. My name is Paul Mount. If you are new here and you've just stumbled across this because you saw the words Doctor Who in the thumbnail and you watch it and you like what you see, why not like and subscribe? Press that subscribe button and the like button, leave a comment down below, that'd be marvellous as we thunder ahead gathering subscriptions. That's the right word? Yeah, of course it is. Right, welcome back. Right, I'm going to do a quick video this afternoon, Friday afternoon, just to discuss the bewildering amount of Doctor Who news and content we've had over the last few days. It's a bit boggling what's happening in the world of Doctor Who at the moment. There's so much stuff. Every day there's a new announcement from the BBC about this is coming, that's coming. Look at this, watch that. It's fantastic, of course, because it's Doctor Who's 60th anniversary. And I remember seeing online not long ago, a couple of months ago, has Doctor Who's 60th anniversary been a disappointment? And I was thinking, yes, June. It's not time yet. Russell T Davies, the returning showrunner, promised that November would be when things would start happening because that's the anniversary month, and he wasn't wrong. Things started happening at the beginning of the week, and as we're moving now into November, lots of new little treats and things are happening, and I promised, and I thought, rather than do shouty, excitable news videos about them, I thought I'd just gather them all together, talk about the ones I've already seen, and discuss and give my opinions on the things that are yet to come. So, yeah, let's kick off with the big one, I suppose. Well, they're all big ones in a way, I suppose. 1st of November, of course, we finally saw almost the entire history of Doctor Who available on the BBC iPlayer for the very first time. Now, New Who, as it's called by irritating people, which has been running since 2005, that's been on the iPlayer since the year dot. It's always been there. You can go back and watch any episode from 2005 whenever you want to. But Russell T Davies has always wanted to get the classic run on there as well, and it's available on BritBox and ITVX and various other places. But he's always wanted it curated and there on the BBC so that everybody who has access to the iPlayer can access any Doctor Who episode, discover old episodes, rediscover old episodes, and just explore the history of Doctor Who. But he wanted to do it in a way that wasn't just dump, here's all these episodes. He wanted to do it in a slightly different way, as we've discovered. However, on the 1st of November, this is what happened. The 1st of November, we had the Whoniverse. The official arrival of the Whoniverse. Again, it's something that Davies has said he was aiming for with Doctor Who now, to make it a big universe, like Marvel, like DC's Dead on Its Legs universe. Everybody wants a universe these days. I noticed, by a side comment, there was a little horror film which came out last year called Fall, which you might remember. I think I reviewed it on this channel, but these two adventuring girls who climb up this mast in the middle of nowhere in America and then get stuck up there. It was quite a hit for its low budget, and there's going to be a sequel. I don't know how, but there we are. However, the producers have just announced this week that there's going to be 2 sequels, and they're going to introduce lots of new characters to the Fall universe. Anyway, that's the madness of Hollywood for you. So Doctor Who has now got its own Whoniverse, and everything Whish is under that banner. So if you go on the BBC iPlayer, you'll find the Whoniverse. You'll find all of Doctor Who, with 1 or 2 exceptions I'll talk about in a moment. You'll find Torchwood, you'll find the Sarah Jane Adventures, you'll find Class, you'll find K9 and Company, I think that's on its way soon. The Doctor Who animations, Doctor Who Confidential, the behind-the-scenes episodes from 2005 are there. Although I noticed that the first couple of series seem to be the shortened half-hour versions, and I'm sure it was 45 minutes at first. Unless I'm mistaken, I'm not sure. But anyway, all Doctor Who is now available on the iPlayer, and that's an incredible thing. The only omissions appear to be the first serial, An Unearthly Child, which is slightly frustrating because, of course, that's where it started. This is how the audience met Doctor Who. It would be nice to have that there. But as I think I've mentioned in a previous video, there's some dispute going on with Anthony Coben's son, Steph. Anthony Coben, of course, wrote the original Doctor Who serial. Coben's son is now slightly hysterically throwing his teddy out of the pram and making all sorts of threats and things so on to the BBC, saying that his father's work was undervalued. His father has copyrights on certain key Doctor Who concepts, and he's demanding money from the BBC. The BBC have made him an offer which he's not happy with, and this is why those episodes unfortunately aren't there. I'm hoping at some point it will be resolved, because story of Doctor Who isn't complete without those episodes. No matter what you think of the Cavemen episodes, that first episode, An Unearthly Child, is so fundamental to the series and such a brilliant first episode. It's a shame to think that people can't see it, but I think it's still on BritBox, so I don't know how these things all work. I also noticed, or it was brought to my attention rather, that the first episode of the final serial of season 1, the Reign of Terror, episode 1, A Land of Fear, isn't on there either. I'm not entirely sure why that is. I don't know if it's there now. It certainly wasn't there when the episode went up a couple of days ago. I'm not sure what the problems are. I'm assuming that everything else is there. I know that there's the random black and white episodes, animations are there. And it's just odd that these 5 episodes, certainly this one episode anyway, we understand the problem with the unearthly child, but it's a bit odd that this one episode from the Reign of Terror isn't there. But again, hopefully this will all be resolved and it will all be there at some point. The next thing I want to talk about, and it's by way of a review I suppose, is Tales in the TARDIS. I'm going to be careful now, but I get the names wrong. There's 2 different things, Tales from the TARDIS, Tales in the TARDIS. Tales in the TARDIS was something which, again, Russell T Davies hinted at in Doctor Who magazine last month when he worried during the summer that they weren't doing enough for the anniversary. She came up with an idea which was greenlit, shot across 6 days. I'm sorry, I'm waving my credit cards on. I don't know why I'm doing that. This is fascinating and really lovely, charming nostalgia fix. It's pure nostalgia fix. I think he's sort of, it's a way of introducing interested new viewers into classic episodes by way of classic characters. The idea is, and I'm sure most of you have seen these, the idea is there's this place called, I think it's called the Remembered TARDIS or a Memory TARDIS, which is a jumble of old TARDIS consoles and control rooms and lots of Easter eggs of props and bits and pieces from various episodes for fans to look at. And they act as framing devices for repeat classic episodes in omnibus form. And there are 6 of these, and they're just delightful. The first one's written by Russell T Davies, so inevitably it's the best one, and it features the 5th Doctor, Peter Davison, and his companion Tegan, reuniting, older and wiser, and talking about the death of Adric, which occurred in Earthshock, which is the story then which gets shown in between the introduction and the outro. I was going to say outro. And they're lovely little pieces. What's interesting, of course, that all these pieces, these old characters, they are all being written and presented now in the style of modern Doctor Who, which is emotional and dealing with feelings and talking about things, which Doctor Who characters never did. They just had adventures. They met, they'd had adventures, they'd go off, they'd go and have another one. So it is a bit odd to see some of these characters who were, I suppose, one-dimensional in the original series, now being given a bit more depth, a bit more believability. And it's really nice. I mean, Peter Davison's Doctor is the older Peter Davison, obviously. He still fits his costume, which is quite impressive. But he doesn't... He's not Peter Davison as we saw him in the 80s, because Peter Davison is older, and it's a more relaxed, sort of melancholy 5th Doctor, I suppose, reflecting on Adric and where he sat in his life as the 5th Doctor. And it's lovely because there's obviously this fantastic chemistry between him and Janet Fielding. If you've seen any of the documentaries, listened to any of the commentaries on the Blu-rays, you know, they've got this easy chemistry between one another, which is incredible, really. But it's just lovely to see them back together. And I suppose, I mean, sometimes I'm sort of a bit resistant to Doctor Who revisiting its past too much. But sometimes I think, especially on a 60th anniversary, you can indulge yourself and let the show indulge you. And I watched all 6 of these things in a row, and they're so sweet, they're so emotional. Especially as somebody who's watched Doctor Who since the 60s, to see these actors, some of whom haven't had great connections to Doctor Who, I'll talk about one of those in a moment, suddenly embracing it again and playing the part again and realising how much the show means, not just to the fans, but also to them as actors and performers throughout their career. They're beautiful. I mean, I'll just run through them quickly. Peter Purvis, who's now in his 80s, played Stephen Taylor in the 60s. Maureen O'Brien, for years, didn't really have much good to say about Doctor Who because she didn't think a lot of the part of Vicky. It wasn't written very well. She was written out a bit abruptly, and she didn't want it sort of hanging around her career. But over the last few years, she has embraced it again now. She started to get involved. And to see her playing the part of Vicky again, I know she did it in the trailer for the Season 2 Blu-ray box set, but here it's an extended sequence with her and Stephen wondering where the First Doctor is, talking about their time together. And interestingly, these stories all update the stories of these characters, know where they are now, what they've done since they left the Doctor, what the Doctors have done since they left them. And it's all very thoughtful and very unwritten. Russell T Davies, as I say, wrote the first one. Pete McTeague has written a couple. And I think Phil Ford's written 3. So that covers the 6 of them. And they're all written by people who know Doctor Who at the back of their hand. So they know their imaginations will lead them down where those characters would have gone. We've also got Fraser Hines as Jamie, Wendy Padbury as Zoe. As I mentioned before, these are characters I very closely associate with late 60s Doctor Who. The second Doctor in these two, or Jamie and Victoria. Sadly, Deborah Watling is no longer with us. And we meet them older and wiser. Jamie's now the head of a clan with kids. Zoe is a big presidential figure with her own family. And it's just great to see them updated. And again, the chemistry between these two actors on the TARDIS reminiscing. And they've now got their memories back, because at the end of the War Games, when they returned to Earth, the Time Lords wiped their memory of their time with the Doctor. This has purposely undone that. They've now got all their memories back. They remember the time of the Doctor, which I think is how it should be, because I think there's a certain tragedy, as we've seen with Donna Noble in the more modern series, doing all this stuff and then having no memory of it. And that's been quite cleverly undone. Elsewhere, we have the 6th Doctor and Perry reunited. We have the 7th Doctor and Ace reunited. And it's just lovely stuff. It really is absolutely lovely stuff. We've also got, I mustn't forget, Joe Grant, Katie Manning reuniting with Clyde Langer, played by Daniel Anthony from the Sarah Jane Adventures. That one's particularly touching because it hinges upon Cliff Jones, who in the series was played back to Stuart Bevan, who was at one point Katie Manning's boyfriend. He passed away last year. This hinges on that. It acknowledges that. And it's all about grief and tragedy. Sarah Jane has gone and Clyde is sort of a bit lost, even though he's now a successful comic book artist. But he has this, his feelings for Rani in the Sarah Jane Adventures. It was always sort of suggested, but never really dealt with in a children's show. But now he wants to reconnect with her, and Joe Grant is telling him, you only live once, we're not Time Lords. If you want to be with her, go and tell her. And at the end, it's particularly poignant because her wish is to see Cliff one more time, and we see a shadow falling over her and hear the voice, "Hello, Joe. Oh, Joe," which is a clip of Stuart Bevan from The Green Death. It's just, the whole thing just drips in. I suppose you could call it mawkishness if you wanted to, but I didn't take it that way. I just took it as these beautiful vignettes that allowed fans to revisit and spend time with long gone characters, and for new audiences to be introduced to these characters and then watch their classic adventures. I mean, as I say, the introductions, then an adventure, an old adventure, and then the outro. So I think it's a clever idea to get people to watch stories they might not watch because they're old and creaky and black and white and just not modern. But I think it's a very interesting idea as a way of introducing people to classic Doctor Who and to give fans a massive fix of nostalgia. As I said, I know a lot of fans have been pegging their hopes on seeing classic Doctors in the 60th anniversary episodes. I never thought that was going to happen because we've just had them in The Power of the Doctor last year. I say just, it was over a year ago. There's no currency in bringing them back again in the main series, but certainly seeing them in these vignettes is just delightful. Even, Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy, I'm not fans of their eras particularly, and you may recall they came quite low down in my Doctor Who rankings, but it's just nice to see them again. I'm not really sold on the explanation of how they look older when their Doctor's regenerated. I think the 7th Doctor mentions something about different time streams, but that suggestions of multiverses, and we don't want to go there. But they're just lovely pieces. It's just lovely to see all these old actors again, because there's not many of them left from the early days of Doctor Who, and it's nice to see them. It's just nice to see them acknowledging their part in the heritage of the series in its 60th anniversary. Absolutely lovely, and all on the iPlayer now. Now that's Tales in the TARDIS. We also have had broadcast on BBC 4 on Wednesday, the 1st of November, Tales from the TARDIS on BBC 4. This was a 1-hour documentary. I mean, well, talk about cheap. This must have cost pennies to make, but it was quite pleasant. It was basically David Tennant. And it was quite odd because he was introducing archive clips of behind-the-scenes Doctor Who things. This is all stuff that Doctor Who fans will have seen before on Blu-ray and DVD, but would be of interest, I suppose, to casual fans. It's got the clip that remains of William Hartnell's only post-Doctor Who on-screen interview when he's preparing for an appearance of pantomime. Very grumpy, very grumpy. A couple of clips of Tom Baker in the early days of his time filming. A couple of backstage clips, not backstage, but we've got a familiar clip of John Pertwee bringing the Whomobile into the Blue Peter Studios. There's a nice bit, I think I've seen it before, of John Pertwee singing the praises of these collapsible caravans. Quite weird. There's lots of stuff that we've seen before, but is presented by David Tennant, and he's sort of commenting on it. It's a bit odd in that there's two sequences where he appears to be interviewed off screen. So he's hosting it and being interviewed on it. There's quite a nice bit where he's watching the behind the scenes footage of Tom Baker regenerating into Peter Davison, who's of course his father-in-law in real life. And it's interesting to watch his reaction to seeing these offshoots that were never meant to be seen, but are charming bits of Doctor Who behind the scenes stuff. And I've seen most of this stuff before, but it was a pleasant enough hour, and it was a interesting aperitif to the screening of the Doctor Who celebration concert that took place at the Hodderknott Hall in Cardiff's Millennium Centre back in September. Frustratingly, it was a lottery ticket thing, so you put your name down. If you were lucky, you got drawn out of the lottery, got a ticket. I didn't, which is a shame because it's local to me, and I've been to previous music concerts and they're glorious. This one looked particularly glorious as well. Slightly smaller scale than the previous ones. It was in a smaller theatre, but it was obviously packed, full orchestra, singers introduced by Radio 2's Joe Wiley. I've listened to the radio version of it, which is actually 2 hours long. This was shorter for TV. It was a 90-minute transmission slot. I'm hoping a longer version will be on the iPlayer, because there's some favourite bits of mine, things like All the Strange Creatures, Doomsday, were cut out of this, and it focused a bit on Stephen Moffat's era music, which I'm not so keen on. But there's some lovely stuff here. Particularly exciting to see the live version of the 15, which is the fantastic theme for Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor, and the rousing new version of the Doctor Who theme. And to see Moffat, Chris Chibnall, Murray Gold and Russell T Davies actually on screen talking about it. And there's something about Russell T Davies' enthusiasm, his obsession with Doctor Who. It's extraordinary how he's quite right, and he says in this interview, once Doctor Who gets its hooks in you at a young age, it doesn't let go. And that's certainly my case, obviously. I got into doing the 60s, properly into it in 1970, and it's been a massive part of my life ever since. That's the magic of Doctor Who. That's what it can do. It doesn't always. Some people grow out of it, but I think if it really gets into you, it really gets into you. And it's just great to see him talking with such enthusiasm. And this week I'll be reading some interviews with him about the new series, which is genuinely thrilling, the stuff that they're planning. And he hasn't given anything away, but wow, I think we're in for some big stuff. So that's on iPlayer. I'm hoping the full version will turn up, but I think it's just the 90-minute version at the moment. Other odds and sods, I'm just looking at the other bits I've got here. There is coming up sometime this month, a couple of weeks' time, I think, Children in Need, the BBC's annual charity telethon, which was traditionally hosted by the late great Terry Wogan. Doctor Who has had a long connection with that over the years, with little features and bits and pieces here and there. Hasn't been much lately, over the past few years, admittedly. But this year we have the return of David Tennant as the 14th Doctor in a new sketch scene specially made for Children in Need. No idea what it's going to be. It'll be nice to see. And there's going to be a little mini episode of Doctor Who Exposed, which is the new version of Doctor Who Confidential, which is going to be airing after each new episode of Doctor Who starting later this month. So that'll be quite fun, coming up in the next couple of weeks. And finally, for now, I dare say in the time I've been recording this video, there's been 3 or 4 other announcements about incredible things. But this is particularly exciting or intriguing. November the 23rd, which is the anniversary day itself, that's a Thursday. So we will be able to celebrate on that day because BBC 4 will be screening a special 75-minute edit of The Daleks, the very first Doctor Who story featuring the Daleks, the second Doctor Who story all told, which has been colourised and truncated down to 75 minutes. So it's effectively a sort of a mini movie of the original William Hartnell black and white Dalek story, with a new soundtrack by Mark Ayres, who incidentally appeared at the Celebration concert. Whether they've got new effects and things, I don't know, but it's a whiz-bang colour edit, which is going to be fascinating to see, because my first experience of the Daleks in colour was the Doctor Who the Daleks film in 1965. It's going to be fascinating to see the original BBC Daleks. We're familiar with their livery. I may have one here. There we are. There's one up there. That's what the Daleks looked like in their first story, with silver on the blue balls. So we're going to see that on screen. Many fans are in uproar, of course. How dare you colorise this? Forgetting that the whole 7-part version is still available for you. And it has to be said, it's a great story, but there's a hell of a lot of padding. And I can see quite easily there's a lot of stuff to be cut out to make it a much punchier, faster paced story, which again is going to appeal to a modern audience. And it's very clever to have that story, because it's the Daleks, that's always going to appeal to an audience. And if they can make it a slicker story with a pace not dissimilar to modern Doctor Who, that might persuade reluctant audiences to try more black and white Doctor Who. Obviously, it's not all going to be at that pace, but they might be interested enough in the characters to want to go back to the iPlayer to see some of this classic stuff. It's exciting stuff. It's exciting stuff. Thrilling times for Doctor Who fans, and that's just the start of it. It's just the start of the month. The end of the month, we've got the first of the special episodes, then going into December. Shooty Gap first episode on Christmas Day, that's confirmed. We've also got 2 documentaries coming up on Radio 2, which I think we're due to have been on by now, but there's probably something to do with Unearthly Child. They've had to take the scissors to it. I think Dr. Matthew Sweet, appears, I'm told, on Radio 4, I think. There's lots of Doctor Who stuff coming. What I would say to you, if you do subscribe or get the Listings magazine, scour every day, because there's going to be things appearing that we don't know about. And there's going to be things announced. I'm sure there's more announcements to come this month. It's an exciting time to be a Doctor Who fan. It really is. So that's what's been happening in the last week. Nearly half an hour of me chatting. Hope it's not been too dull for you. That's just my thoughts on what we've had in the last week or so. My observations on the stuff I've not yet seen, and thoughts on the stuff that I have. Hope you found it of interest. Allow me to just jump in and interrupt myself there for a moment, because as I suspected, and as I think I mentioned in the video, yes, there has been a new Doctor Who item announced today since I was recording the video and before I uploaded it. So I thought I'd do this little interjection just to point it out. BBC Books have issued the illustrations of the covers of the novelisations of the forthcoming 60th anniversary specials: The Star Beast by Gary Russell, Wild Blue Yonder by Mark Morris, and The Giggle by James Goss. And the cover looks like this. Or covers, I should say. Interesting, nice covers, very much in the style of Target Books, and the style of Target Books that the BBC have been publishing over the last few years. Interesting thinking about the authors of them. I think Gary Russell appears to be a safe pair of hands in terms of doing what I think is a classic sort of Doctor Who monster run around. Mark Morris is an interesting choice for Wild Blue Yonder, because I've heard nothing about the story, but I read a couple of interviews recently that suggest that that's the darkest and the weirdest of the stories. So I think that will probably suit his sort of harder sensibilities. And then James Goss is dealing with The Giggle. James Goss is quite a well-known name in Doctor Who writing. Don't know, he does Big Finish stuff as well, but he's done a lot of authorised BBC stuff. Probably an interesting choice to write the 3rd book. Shame that Russell T Davies himself hasn't written any, but he's a bit busy at the moment, so that's hardly surprising. So yes, that's the news from Doctor Who added to the stuff I've already talked about. I better get this video up quick, because there may be something else coming along any time now. Go on, like and subscribe, be a pal, and leave a comment. I'll see you soon. Hold it. I got one thing to show you. I was going to have 2 things to show you. One I was expecting in the post, and it hasn't come. I'll show you this. Came earlier this week. It's not related to Doctor Who. It's this. It's a brand new Corgi edition of an Angel Interceptor from Captain Scarlet and the Mr. Ones, the 1967 Jerry Anderson sci-fi puppet show. Corgi have re-released this. I don't know if this actually came out in the 60s. I don't remember. I don't think I had this in the 60s, but I imagine it is. Die-cast metal. Oh, just brings back memories. They've also done the Spectrum Pursuit vehicle from Captain Scarlet. I haven't ordered that yet for some reason, so I must get onto that. But this came earlier this week. Lovely little thing in this box. I'm not going to take it out of its box because I think it looks rather nice with that sky diorama thing behind it. And I'm going to leave that in its box as it is because I like the box. It looks very nice, and of course that makes it collectible. The other thing I was expecting hasn't arrived today, so I won't mention that now, but I might do something on that if it arrives over the weekend. But it is Anderson related. Right. I am going now. Thank you for your perseverance and patience. I will see you soon. Until I do, keep taking the stuff.